So welcome again to Whistle Watch. We're nearing the business end of the season now that the split has taken place and referee decisions become even more important. So our first clip today comes from the match Ballymena United versus Carrick Rangers at the showgrounds. We see a cross ball from the Carrick player coming in and striking the Ballymena defender, who has his arm outstretched in an unnatural manner. Makes clear contact on the ball. We can see it rebounding for a corner kick, and Stephen Gregg has given the penalty. I guess the only discussion here is the player inside or outside the penalty area, and from the angle we have, it's obviously difficult to confirm that, but Stephen is well placed to give his decision.
For us, what we would say is the hand is still extended away from the body, making the body unnaturally bigger. It's still far enough away that it would deem to be making the body unnaturally bigger. The biggest call probably in that one is whether it's inside or outside. And we can see from the clip that Stephen Gregg, the referee, is in a good enough position. He could probably be a wee bit left to say a bit more whether it's inside or outside, but it looks very close to being on the line, if not inside. So one, again, it just shows the decisions that a referee has to make. There's two calls there. There's one, is it a handball? Is it in an unnatural position? Is it making the body unnaturally bigger? And then two, is it inside or outside? So it's not only getting the handball call right, it's getting the decision whether it's inside or outside is then also the important call. And I feel that he has got both right on this occasion.
Next clip we have the game Dungannon Swifts and Bangor, and we see a very fast counter-attack by Bangor down the left side. These are very difficult moments for referees because when we're caught with a quick counter-attack, obviously we're not Olympic athletes and we'd like to achieve the best position to make our decisions. But this one is quite difficult for Mark Milligan. Ball is crossed over. Dungannon player initially has his arm outstretched in an unnatural position, but he quickly withdraws his hand, and from this image it appears that the ball has struck him on the chest or the top of the shoulder. So there's nothing in this clip to show me that Mark Milligan has got the decision wrong after he's given his corner kick.
Obviously, we can see in this one here, the hand is more closer to the body. The arm is tucked in, it's in a natural position, it's not making his body anywhere near unnaturally bigger. Again, if we look at the comparison between that and the Ballymena handball, the distance is probably the same. But it's where it hits the hand in this one, or the arm. It probably hits him in the upper arm, which is tucked in close to the body. The ball's come a short distance, his arm is in a natural position. It's tucked in close enough to the body to say that it's natural and there's no additional movement of the hand towards the ball. So in this one, it's clear, it's simple, it's a play on, it's no handball. And again, anywhere in the park, it would be the same decision.
When you see a player or other players of other teammates, sort of tapping the chest as if to symbolise or signify that it's hit the chest and not the arm, regardless of where it has hit.
Yeah.
Does that make it sort of more difficult for an official, because obviously players are going to try their best to influence the match official, aren't they?
It's an interesting point because we do see the Dungannon player touching his chest, but I think what we need to remember as well is the referee has already made his decision at this point, and player reaction, as we've seen in this example, will not change anything. So if we accept that this is a genuine and honest reaction from the player just to indicate to everybody that it's hit him on the chest, then that's a natural human thing to be doing. But Mark has made his decision already, so that would not have influenced him in any way. So we've another clip again from the game between Dungannon Swifts and Bangor. We can see the ball played through to Rocco Devlin, who has gone down after the challenge from the Bangor number 3. Having looked at this very, very closely, I think we can see small contact from the left leg of the Bangor number 3 on the right foot of the Dungannon attacker. For me, this is not a simulation. There is contact. Players running at speed, a very slight, light contact will bring them to the ground. So for me, there is a case for a penalty kick here. It's not denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity red card because the defender has made a genuine attempt to play the ball when he's making his challenge. So based on the footage that we have available, I can see slight contact, I can see reasons for a penalty kick, but I certainly don't think it's a caution for a simulation offence because of the slight contact foot to foot.
I think the yellow card for simulation is wrong. I don't think the yellow card for simulation is where there is an attempt to deceive the referee, where there's no contact by the defender, or there is contact initiated by the striker. And as we can see in this case, there's neither of those take place. There may be small contact in the foul by Reece Neal. There may be a small touch on the attacker's foot, and again running at that speed. If anything, we would probably say it was more of a penalty kick because it happens on the line or just inside. So again, if it happens on the 18-yard box line, then it's deemed to be inside and it's a penalty. So we would say probably more a penalty kick. I don't know if there's as much contact. I don't know if the contact is great enough to be, because as we know, not every contact is a foul. We can have natural bodily contact in any penalty area or in any part of the field, and there doesn't have to be a free kick, but it also doesn't have to be simulation. So in this one, I can say the fact is that there's some small contact, maybe a bit of contact on the foot, but it should, I think it's more likely play on than anything else. I don't think there's a penalty, and I don't think it's simulation, but I do think the card for simulation is probably wrong in this scenario.
Just very quickly, if he does give the penalty in this decision, is there potential that Reece Neal could receive a red card?
No, I don't think so. I think it's an honest attempt to play the ball. So then you'll be looking at the dog-so scenario. So dog-so or deny an obvious goal-scoring opportunity when it's inside the penalty area. If there's an attempt or a challenge for the ball, then that red card would be downgraded to a yellow card. I think that when we look at it, the touch by the defender, he takes a touch, he's passed, then the attacker, Rocco Devlin, is then past the defender with an obvious goal scoring opportunity. So if the penalty kick then is given, it would be followed with a yellow card because it's inside the penalty area and it's an honest attempt to play the ball. Again, if we take that outside the penalty area and the same challenge happens, then it would be a free kick and a red card for an obvious goal scoring opportunity. It's just once we cross that line of the 18-yard box, then the colour of the card can change.
So Glentoran versus Coleraine at the Oval. We see a challenge by Rowan McDonald on Glentoran's Pat Hubin. The challenge is late. Shane Andrews, the referee, is perfectly placed to see it. He's several yards away. Hubin has played the ball forward, and the challenge has come in from the Coleraine player with studs on the top of Hubin's foot. So this is a late challenge. Shane Andrews has decided to issue a red card based on the footage that we've seen from one angle, and again, Shane has had one opportunity on it. I think we can support this decision. The challenge is late. There's no attempt to play the ball. We've seen many challenges in the last weeks where red cards have been missed. Every challenge, of course, is different, so we can't compare this one with some of the previous ones. But for me, there is enough in this challenge to endanger the safety of the opponent with the foul with the studs on the opponent's ankle or above the ankle, which is a very dangerous place to make contact with. And as I've said, Shane's perfectly placed to make his call on the day.
And obviously Coleraine appealed this decision and won that appeal, and the red card was rescinded. Just to give us an insight into, from a refereeing perspective, how that process works, whether regardless of the outcome of any particular appeal.
Yeah, so it's a challenge on the red card decision. So a red card can be challenged by the club on two scenarios: one, clear and obvious error by the referee, and two, mistaken identity. The wrong person has been sent off and it was a mistaken identity by the referee. So they're the two avenues for appeal once a decision has been made by the referee. So the club can then put that obvious error challenge in to the discipline department at the Irish FA. They can then submit any additional footage or all their supporting evidence to say why they think that it is an obvious error. The referee then will have a chance, the discipline department will go to the referee and ask them, do they think that it's an obvious error, or are they happy with their decision? Once they have then got both sides of those, shall we say, argument, that will go to the disciplinary committee, who will then decide whether then the levels of the obvious error have been met in their eyes, and then they decide then whether the red card stands or doesn't stand.
just for clarity, in that initial stage, if the disciplinary committee go to the match referee and he reviews the footage, his own decision, and says, actually, holds his hands up, I've made a mistake, it's a clear and obvious error, does that automatically then mean that the appeal is granted, that the club have won the appeal, or does it still go to a discussion within the committee?
Yeah, so referee can't hold their hands up and say they've got this wrong. But again, it has to be clear and obvious, and a lot of the times as with football, not everything is always clear and obvious, and again, football is a matter of opinions, and everyone has their opinion, otherwise we wouldn't have programs like this. So everyone has a matter of opinions. So the referee can't say, listen, I've got a clear and obvious that I've made a mistake, and we have done that so far this year on numerous challenges. This doesn't just happen at Premiership level, this happens right the whole way down to intermediate level when it comes to the Irish FA discipline. So the referee can say, yes, I made a clear and obvious error. Sometimes that will come from additional footage that the referee hasn't seen, maybe another camera angle, different footage from another source, where it clearly shows something different. I think in this case, the referee was still very much, not adamant, but very much clear that he still was happy with what he's seen on the day, and the footage that was provided wasn't clear and obviously different to what he's seen on the day. But yeah, if a referee sees it as clear and obvious mistake on his part, they can then say, no, I've made a mistake, and the challenge then by the club will then be upheld, and then the red card will be thrown out. It's only when obviously the referee says that they challenge, that they don't see that it's clear and obvious mistake. And again, it's very hard to see what is a clear and obvious mistake when it comes to football. We're not blessed sometimes with multiple camera angles. We're not blessed with sometimes the most clearest of footage. So clear and obvious is a very, very blurred line of what is and what isn't a clear and obvious mistake, because of the opinions and the angle sometimes the referee has on the day. He'll need to have some sort of different angle or different footage to clearly show that what he saw on the day was something completely different.
Another clip from Glentoran Coleraine, played at the Oval. We see a cross ball into the penalty area, and the outstretched arm of the Coleraine defender has made clear contact on the ball. Shane Andrews is perfectly placed again to give his correct penalty kick decision. When we see these types of incidents, the trajectory of the ball, the way the ball moves, is also quite an important factor. And when we see the arm outstretched by the defending player and the ball clearly bounces off the arm, that means it's stiff. He's holding it in a firm manner, and this is a rebound rather than an accidental deflection. So correct decision from Shane.
Yeah, the Glentoran penalty, and again the footage probably isn't 100% clear on where the ball hits on the arm. It's cleared out of the penalty area by the Coleraine defender, who then, I'm not sure whether he plays it onto his own arm or whether a defender plays it onto his arm. If he plays it onto his own arm and his arm is at a natural position, then that is okay. But in this one, we can clearly see the arm is raised above shoulder height, above head height, which makes it making the body unnaturally bigger. So although he has played the ball, it played onto his own hand. His hand is still in an unnatural position, making the body unnaturally bigger. And because it's so far away from the body, and outside the body line, it's then still a penalty kick.
So final clip today comes from Solitude, Cliftonville versus Ballymena. We see a Ballymena attacker bursting into the penalty area, challenged by Rory Hale, who takes the opponent down with both arms on the shoulders, hauling them to the ground and preventing him from having a clear shot on goal, 1-1 with the goalkeeper. So according to the laws of the game, red card for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, and the correct decision made by the referee.
Is that one of those ones where you see that type of challenge probably in every part of the pitch? Sometimes they're given, sometimes they aren't. You see players battling in the centre circle for a ball, and maybe the referee will decide to play on. Do those types of tackles, those types of challenges, can the decision maybe be different depending on what part of the pitch it's in sometimes?
I think this this type of foul, when you see both arms being used and the player pulled to the ground, would be a routine foul in any part of the field of play. Obviously in the penalty area it's got bigger consequences, and the decision is much more important than one in the centre circle, for example. But this one for me is a routine recognition of a clear foul, clear holding, no attempt to play the ball. clear penalty kick, and unfortunately for Rory Hale, a red card.